Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man's debut, his first ever comic book appearance, which was in Amazing Fantasy 15. And we're going to be discussing the two different covers that were available to Stan Lee for this. So on the left, we've got the well-known version, the Jack Kirby version, the one that everyone thinks of when they think of Amazing Fantasy 15. And on the right, we've actually got the Steve Ditko variant. So Steve Ditko did all the interior art for it, which is something I didn't quite realise when I did my video on Amazing Fantasy 15 the other day. I do like to go into these videos blind, but I talked about how inconsistent the Spider-Man design was inside, as opposed to the cover, which looked completely different, and now I totally get what's happened. So this alternative cover was brought to my attention by one of the subscribers here, Jezzy213. I hope I pronounced that right, but thank you so much for your comment. Like I said on my reply, it sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole, so this is what I've been able to glean. This is not my picture, by the way. I found it on Google, and it does highlight exactly what's going on here. So from what I understand, Steve Ditko did all the interior art, did his version of the front cover, which is what we've got here. I don't know if everyone will have seen this before. I certainly hadn't. And when I've done my research, it seems like quite a lot of people were surprised to see it. So this is what Steve put together. Now, ultimately, from what I gather, Stan Lee didn't think it looked quite right and asked Jack Kirby to have a crack at it. And that is eventually what we ended up with. So he drew this. And from what I gather, Steve Ditko then inked it for him. And this is ultimately what got put out. And this one of the greatest what could have beens of all time, I guess. This might have been Spider-Man's first ever appearance, but this is ultimately what we got. And what we're going to do today is have a quick chat about the differences between the two, which one ultimately we think is the best. I know which one I think is the best, but it's worth having a chat and seeing where we go. So let's take a look at Jack Kirby's first, what we like, what we don't like, and then we'll head over to Steve Ditko's, and then we'll bring it full circle and discuss which one works the best. So first of all, we've got Jack Kirby's design. This is the one we all know. This was the one that was on my living room wall for a number of years, and it's the first ever appearance of Spidey. So what I like about this is it's so clean. Spidey is in a very heroic pose, isn't he? Very muscular pose. He's got the baddie under control with ease. And you've got the upper ends of these buildings here, so we're looking up at Spidey in this picture, aren't we? And he looks like he's in complete control, and the buildings are all grey, the sky is grey, and we've got this big splash of colour with Spider-Man. He's sort of arriving on the scene, as it were, here. And yeah, ultimately, this is a much more heroic pose. This is someone who's in control, someone to look up to as maybe more of an established hero as what we get inside the issue, which I guess is where some of the conflict comes from. But yeah, this is Jack's design. Let's take a look at Steve Ditko's design. Now, I should point out that this is what was put together at the time. The colour came later. There seems to be different versions of the coloured one, so we'll take a look at that in a second. But I just wanted to point out this is what was pulled out of the archive from back then. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is what was coloured at the time or if this is what a fan has done later, but this is the best representation of that alternative, that variant cover, which I guess we should refer to it now, the Steve Ditko version. Now, this is a lot busier, so we're looking down on Spider-Man now. Now, the other cover has the sort of illusion of being high up in the sky. We don't know for sure how high up it is, but it looks like it's high. But here he's sort of almost ground level. There's only a couple of stories up. And it's a lot busy. You've got all these people. So this person here's in shock. This person's looking up out their car, and people are pointing down here. This is a hero who's not quite in control, and I think probably better reflects the Spider-Man inside the actual comic. And he looks a lot thinner. And he hasn't got complete control, has he, of the situation. He's grasping this fellow here, who looks a lot bigger compared to Spider-Man here. So we'll do a side-by-side in a moment. But it's very busy looking, and there's a lot happening. The writing's all over the place. So I can see why Stan Lee maybe took a look at this and maybe wanted to have another crack at it. I think it was our commenter, Jezzy, who suggested it might have actually made a good panel inside the comic. I get that, actually. I think that's probably right. Might have made a good splash page on the first page. Let's put them side by side again, and let's take a quick look, and then we'll bring it to a quick conclusion. So here we are again, side by side. This, like I said, it's not my picture. I found it online, but it seems to give the best representation of what these two covers might have been like next to each other. Now, I'm personally going to say, looking at them both, I do prefer the Kirby design. Like I say, I think it's a lot cleaner. I think Spider-Man looks a lot more heroic, and how it's viewed up matters a lot to me. It's got that wow factor to me. I enjoyed this picture too. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I just, like I say, Spider-Man is lessened a bit by being closer to the ground. He's not in full control of this guy who takes up a lot more of the space than what he does here. He's sort of clung onto him like he's picking a child up almost, you know. This Spider-Man is in complete control. He's a hero. And look at the proportions and everything. Whereas here, he's like a spindly kid who's out of his depth and he's just about getting through the situation. And you don't quite know what the reactions are of these people. So this cover is more sort of consistent with what's happening inside the issue, I would say. But this is the better cover, my personal opinion. It doesn't help they've got all this writing all over here as well. This is just cleaner. Even the writing's cleaner. So I think the Ditko version can best be summarised as this kid's in over his head. He's got some powers. There's some crazy stuff going on. Everyone's got a reaction to it. Check inside to see what's going on. The Kirby one's more of the next big hero has arrived, and I think ultimately that proved to be correct. Not quite representative of what is happening inside the issue, of course. He doesn't actually save anybody, does he, really? But of the two, on the balance, on the whole, I do think the Kirby one is superior, and I'm glad that's the one they went with. But that's just my thought. I'm not an authority at all. I'm just a guy who likes comics and makes videos. Really keen to know what everyone else thinks. I did make a quick poll on the page. It looked like the Kirby one was just edging it, last I looked. And I feel like that's probably the consensus. If you search online, there's been some real hot debate on it. A lot of people do prefer this cover, and I can definitely see why. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But I think most people would probably lean towards this one as I do. But please comment below. Give me your thoughts. I would love to know what you all think. Let's make it a discussion. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your view, and please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. The next video will probably be The Amazing Spider-Man #1. Keen to jump into that, and then we'll jump back to X-Men, I think, after that as well. So like I say, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.